Honorable Minister, on behalf of the President of the Senate and the leadership of the National Assembly, we want to warmly welcome you for this budget defense that is taking place jointly at the joint section of the Committee of Works, both from the House of Reps and the Senate. It's expected that this budget is supposed to be passed latest by 19th of December 2023, with the hope of meeting up Mr. President rituals of signing this budget by 31st of December this year. Honorable Minister and team, with the principle of equity, justice, and fairness, it's expected that the budget you are giving to us should reflect all Nigerians and the aspirations of all honorable and distinguished senators here, 109 senatorial districts, 360 federal constituencies, and it's our hope that there will be even distributions of projects accordingly, because all senators and all members House of Reps made campaign promises accordingly. And it's our hope and view and belief that these our campaign promises be delivered as there is the expectations, highly expectations on us, as go back to the pool again. Honorable Ministers, this 10th National Assembly, under the able leadership of distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio and the Speaker of the House of Reps, is so transparent, and we are totally in support of the dream of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The executive should not think that they have an upper hand over the legislative arm. Because I know if the legislative arm and the executive arm collaborate together, just like what the leadership of the Senate is doing with the executive, there will be easy passage of this budget. On that note, together we can do it. But if an individual thinks he wants to do it alone, we may not succeed. I want to, on behalf of the Joint Committee, welcome the Honorable Ministers and other distinguished guests for this budget defense. Thank you and God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Joint Committee of Senate and House Committee of Works on the 2024 Budget Defense Session, I express our sincere gratitude to you, all our invited guests present for this session. Mr. President, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu tagged the 2024 budget as budget of renewed hope in his speech. This is very instructive in the sense that it has set for all of us, either in the executive or the legislature, the focus and direction we should chart in our consideration of the 2024 budget. Distinguished senators and honorable members of this joint committee, we have set the stage for us to engage our guests on various issues of concerns in the sector we oversee. Before now, the House Committee on Works has variously been engaging stakeholders by seeking for information and submissions on their activities. Within this short space of time of engagement, I can clearly tell this gathering that the challenge on our roads are enormous. The state of our road infrastructure is the major concern that requires a concrete effort to address. That is why I advocate for all of us to see ourselves as partners in progress. This is the time for a pragmatic approach in solving our immediate problem, for us to promote economic growth and development of our country. I'm just going to jump to the last paragraph to save time. Our effort on this 2024 budget must keep hope alive for our people. The expectation out there is huge on us. We must collectively work together to ensure positive transformation we all crave to see. That is why I once again reiterate that the chairman of this joint session said earlier that the exercise is not a witch hunt, rather than it is seen as a call to duty towards nation building. Finally, once again, I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you very much. Let's get down to business.
Introduction.
Honorable members of the House, Honorable Minister, other esteemed guests, I am Senator Rufai Hanga, the Vice Chairman of this committee. I am also the Deputy Minority Leader of the Minority Whip of the Senate. I'm a member of this committee. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Honorable members, Prime Secretary, Ministry of Works, Directors, Ministry of Works, all other invited guests, the press. Mr. Chairman, I have a brief address to read. But before I read the address, let me seek your permission to express my gratitude to first God Almighty for the privilege to serve as the Minister for Works of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and to thank the instrument that God used in doing this, His Excellency CNC, Senator Aswaji Bola Ahmed, who found me worthy and of trust to lead this ministry. Let me commend very highly the 10th Assembly. The 10th Assembly, for me, is divine because your actions since inauguration have since proved that God called you at this moment in our nation building. Mr. Chairman, we are here to basically address the road sector in a developing country like Nigeria. My understanding of road infrastructure is that road infrastructure represents everything about the development of a nation. A very wealthy man, one of the wealthiest men in India, was asked the factors that could crystallize into the development of a nation. And he said, if you want to build a nation, build the roads. If we have good roads, it will address security, agriculture, trade and investment, and of course commerce, education, health, everything. You know, you can be a rich man in this country, you can send your children to private schools, you can have private clinics, but you can't have private roads. So the road is a common denominator that connects both the rich and the poor. Mr. Chairman, and this distinguished 10th Assembly committees, we've been talking about how to cut down inflation. Road infrastructure is key in cutting down inflation in our country. And you just think of the cost of agricultural produce that are on the rise. Why? Because to transport this produce from one point to the other under the kind of rules we have, the transporters will definitely charge more. Yes, I will just run off, Mr. Chairman.
Mike.
I said this to emphasize the importance of road infrastructure development in our country. And before I go on, let me withdraw Annexure 13, earlier on circulated, inside this big book. We've replaced it as the submission made before was a misrepresentation of facts. Annexure 13. Let me also say that disregard most of the roads tagged new, as some of them are ongoing projects resulting from 2022 supplementary budget, 2023 appropriation, and 2023 supplementary budgets. Page 2 of my brief remarks, clause 2.0, overview of the 2023 appropriation. The sum of 534.455 billion was appropriated to the Ministry of Works and Housing and its parastatals in 2023 fiscal year. From this amount, Works and Housing sectors of the then ministry was allocated a capital of 453 billion plus. Following the demerger of the ministry, Federal Ministry of Works was allocated the sum of 383.35 billion. As capital, overhead was in the sum of 523 million, and personnel cost was in the sum of 6.91 million. The details of the appropriation are listed on page 2 of this address. Page 3, clause 3.0, 2023 budget releases and performances. As earlier on said, the capital allocation to the ministry was 383.351 billion after the merger of Federal Ministry of Works and Housing. The releases so far to the ministry was in the sum of 184.165 billion, which represents 48.01% of the capital allocation in 2023 appropriation. This leaves a balance of 199.405 billion to be released by the Minister of Finance to our ministry. 3.10 close capital projects, the sum of 184.165 billion released up to date to the ministry from 2023 budget appropriation had been utilized for payments of some certified certificates for executed works on roads and bridges by highway, projects of engineering services and common services department. It's to be noted that as at the end of November 2023, the ministry had a cumulative unpaid certificates in the sum of 1.507 trillions. And this is for the inherited ongoing highway and bridge projects. Apart from the pressure on the resources to pay, there is the inadequacy of annual budgetary provisions, where in most cases, 100 or 200 million, and even less, was provided for projects estimated to cost above 20 to 50 billion naira, or even more. Awarding such projects, even though appropriated, is difficult on its own because the provision is inadequate to even pay 10% for mobilization, whereas the procurement act prescribed 30% mobilization. The details of all the 2023 budget performance for highway capital projects are provided in the document that we have earlier on submitted, Annexure 1. You will see the overhead, you will see the personnel cost, and then we go to page 5. You will see in clause 4.0, over the years we've generated 723 million. And that takes us to where we are today, and that is clause 5.0, 2024 budget proposal. Am I on track, Mr. Chairman?
2024 without us looking at what happened in 2023. So, it's on that note, I want us to look at the budget performance in 2023 before we move down to budget 2024. So, the floor is open. So I want to see to what extent we go before we move into 2024. Thank you.
I am aware that you took over just in June or July this year, and not much will be expected of you in terms of budget performance of 2023. But knowing fully well your antecedents, like you will believe that a lot of Nigerians, they have a very high expectation of you in terms of performance. Because in your state, some of us went to your state, we know that you did a lot on roads, especially on concrete roads. And when you came in, you have been preaching on concrete roads. The budget performance of 2023, including the supplementary budget of 2022 or 2023. How are we going to translate the ongoing projects into the concrete roads that we've been talking about? Because even you've also talked about most of the roads that we're expecting in 2024 will be concrete roads. How are we going to transit from the subsisting contracts? How are they going to transit to concrete roads? And if you look at our budget in 2023, even the one I saw in 2024, it has been a little here, 100 million here, 50 million, 200, 500 million, 4 billions of naira jobs. When are we going to complete these jobs? If we are just putting little every time, that will not make any much difference. That is my question, sir.
I think we, in the 10th Assembly, can claim, I believe for good reasons, but we have at the head of the Ministry of Works someone who had the opportunity, having been elected a senator, to participate in the debates of the Senate, with particular reference to the concerns of many senators about those road projects that have created serious economic crisis that has cut off part of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and we all lamented the economic damage that the condition of this road is inflicting on our people, thereby complicating the problem of economic growth and development. I do remember, Honorable Minister, that you were a principal member of the House, and therefore I believe you took special note of all those resolutions that were passed on the floor of the Senate, drawing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's federal government to the condition of those roads. And yet, listening to you and even reminding us of what we should assume we know, namely about the importance of roads, because if they were not important, they would feature in those resolutions of the Senate. I thank you for reminding us. But as I go through your presentation, it's a complete, with due respect, Mr. Chairman, it's a complete betrayal of the general principles that we debated extensively in the Senate. Namely, that the reason we have so many uncompleted roads, the reason we construct one road for 15 years and it's not finished, and by the time they are getting to the 15 years, the first portion has washed up, is because of the policy of tokenism. Token allocation, just for Nigerian people to think, which translates to deceiving Nigerians, as though we are walking, we see motion without movement. This budget, Mr. Chairman, with due respect, is a complete betrayal of the commitment for renewed hope, which implies doing things differently, moving away from tokenism to bold and properly articulated priorities, roles that will make a difference to the economic life of Nigeria. When I see, for example, Honorable Minister, and I will play the tape if it is necessary, whether here or elsewhere, with the permission of the chairman. You said you spent about 6 hours trying to commute between Benin and Ekpoma and Auchi because of the terrible road. These were your findings. And it was shown on telly. That will suggest to the average person that you don't need to be lectured on it. And yet, in this budget, what I have seen is 200 million. And I ask you with profound respect and with the fear of God, do you really intend that? Do you really believe, as an engineer in your own right, that, no, let me finish. This is the Senate. This is the Senate. Which order are you referring to?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order.
Order number what? Allow me to finish, sir.
No. Honorable Minister, we owe you a duty of care. Daniel Olajide, let me put it on record that when a speaker is speaking in the National Assembly, unless you are yielded the floor by the chairman, you cannot speak. We owe you that duty of care.
God bless you and may God prolong your chairmanship of this committee. And thank you for being my advocate, pro bono. Because when we speak on the National Assembly floor, and it is televised, Nigeria expects that we match words with action. Indeed, many will say they are just rhetoric by referring to previous shortcomings. But we promise to be different. And in the opening remark by the chairman and the co-chair, we said we will approach the work of the Senate, of the National Assembly, of which appropriation is key, in a manner that will reflect the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President. This budget has dashed the hope of 200 million Nigerians, because none of those roads that we complain about has a location that will enable any contractor other than tuke contractors who just want to collect some money, and yet Nigerians will what's up. How can you, and I will insist with the permission of the chairman and the co-chair, that you provide an answer as to what you intend to do with 200 million to fix Benin Auchi Road? And how much do you intend to spend per kilometer in that road? So that it can give us a window into how your mind is working that led to this kind of allocation. Just allow me 1 second and I will round up. I emphasize only this, but I also see where, when I look at the overall budget, it will appear that the ministry is more interested in maintaining roads rather than concentrating on your core mandate. The maintenance of roads fall within the purview of FEMA. FEMA is charged with the responsibility of maintaining failed roads. So, for example, I saw where you allocated 1.4 million to replace some roads in about 3 zones in the South. And I'm like, there must be a magician in the Ministry of Works under your leadership. How? We can go page by page. Everything here will lead us to the very dirty past. How Nigeria throw money away. I look at the total sum. You have 660. The total budget for the Ministry of Works. No internal repair revenue. Capital project. Let me round up. So the figures I see here is like you have the elephant share of the budget, but you have so reduced it to suya. that at the end of the day, none of the major job will be done. Mr. Chairman, I suggest to you that
But the chairman said 2023 appraisal.
but I think it's good because this year, under your leadership, oh, okay, previous leadership,
Are you talking about 2023 or 2024? Let me understand.
Yes.
you,
I'm here. I'm not an executive. That's why
Let's understand
that's
him
why
now.
are you talking about
Because he
2023?
said,
All
he
right.
said it's appraisal. The
The,
chairman said it's 2023 appraisal.
what I said of 2020, what I was saying is valid for 2023, including the supplementary budget that was approved by the 10th Senate. And lastly, I think we need a clear distinction because while you won't be watching on television is governors accusing the federal government of not maintaining federal roads. And yet I see a lot of state roads. How has state roads become your project? Even in the state, where we have the major road that has to do with the economic impact of the state in 2023, and but through the window, I see something in 2024 that suggests no departure for the very terrible past.
Okay. Distinguished senators, honorable members, thank you very much. Let me apologize for trying to give information. I've been corrected. I was simply trying to say that the submission of the distinguished senator Adam Oshimole was on 2024, and that Mr. Chairman had stopped me from going ahead with 2024, so we are praising 2023. And when we get to 2024, I will explain. But I can briefly tell the distinguished senator that the road he's talking about is being taken care under the NMPC tax credits 1 and 2. And a number of roads are also being taken care by the Sukuk and by the tax credit of critical investors like Dangote, Bua, MTN. When we get to that, we will see. And then, distinguished senator, if the National Assembly brings up a constituency project and put it in my budget, I wouldn't go to find out whether it's state road or federal road. I'm bound to do it because it's a law. The moment it's appropriated, I have no reason to start checking whether it's state or federal. It means to disobey the law. And so, where state road occurs, I'm bound by the law to do it. The Geda Wire Road you talked about, it's an emergency repair road, and the contract sum was 451 million. And there is a supplementary in 2023 of 225 million. And of course, another 225, to join to the two. So the project is alive under 2023 supplementary, and it's also revived under 2024 appropriation. And so what the contractor has not reported to site. I want to believe that the contract papers for 2023 supplementary, are just being issued. So if the contractor has not reported to site, maybe. We don't have any other notation on the 980 million you talked about, but we'd like you to give us, even if it's a sheet of paper, so that we can go back and, recheck. Distinguished Senator Karimi, thank you, sir. When we came on board, we were worried by the debt we inherited on our road infrastructure. And then it was about 1.6 trillion. Today, Mr. President has reduced it to about 1.5 trillion. And we also have a lot of requests for variation on price and also augmentations. In every contract, 5% of the contract sum is put in as VOP. And that is variation of price, and it's supposed to last within the lifespan of the project. Now, we had a shock in construction industry due to inflation, due to removal of fuel subsidy, and it's understandable. And so we have a net debt of 1.5 trillion, and then we have more debt when these contracts are being reviewed. A number of contractors are not on site today because they've exhausted their 5% VOP. They can't go forward. And naturally, by the definition of force majeure, which defines that when something that is extraordinarily happens in the country, it's also taken as force majeure. And so for this reason, the contractors cannot go forward. For example, there are a number of contracts that are going, asphalt, 3,000 per square meter, awarded. Some contracts have stayed for 17 years, 20 years. And now there is no defined, properly regulated asphalt that will go for less than 20,000 per square meter now. And so when you do the VOP and the augmentation, we are going to have more. Now, we wanted to change a number of roads to concrete. But we had a lot of fight, a lot of attacks. Some people were talking about the illegality of doing that. But Article 2 of all contracts and Clause 51 of all conditions of contracts, part of the document forming the contract, allows the ministry to change the scope of every contract, to change the quality, the quantity, etc. of any contract that is ongoing, which means that we have the right to change from asphalt to concrete without defiling the contract. And the contractors, they all know. And I'm saying Article 2. And under Article 2, you have the general conditions of contract, inside it, and you go to Clause 51. This is our protection. However, the major reason why we wanted to change a number of them is because of what is happening. We have a dancing contract in all the ongoing projects. Dancing contract in the sense that if a contract that is ongoing needed to be, reviewed by even ₦1, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria must know. And when you get his approval, then you go to BPP. BPP will now evaluate and give you approval, no objection, and you go back to Federal Executive Council. So it's a lot of rigors, and these are part of delays in the execution of projects. And the more we have delays, the more we have inflection. And so we said, okay, the use of concrete, apart from the fact that it's going to last longer, but the asphalt is on a geometrical progression in terms of inflection. But concrete is all about local content and it's arithmetical progression. And so we prefer concrete. But we're a bit frustrated by contractors by giving us a very high cost, of 350,000 per meter cubed. I think it's unreasonable. But we've allowed it in a number of critical routes, like the Lokoja to Benin, the entire East-West Road. We have said to contractors, because the outdualization, you do the existing roads with asphalt, but the new lanes is going to be on concrete. And that's what we've done. The Abuja to Kaduna, the first 40 kilometers is critical. And we are looking at doing it on concrete. But generally, we move back to concrete. But 2024 projects, apart from palliatives and emergency repairs, will be on concrete. Will be on concrete so that we can maintain certain stability in the cost of our projects. This is very important. And so, let me also say that when we come to that, the basis of our 2024 projects is to look at critical projects and their funding and to keep all projects alive, while we work with these committees and the Mr. President to think about how to fund the road infrastructure. Thank you, sir. 166.466 billion. And I want to be clear about this, even though it's not written. About 102.9 billion is for new projects. 102.9 is for new projects. About 130 billion is for allocated for completion of your 2023 supplementary budget. And 100 billion about that is for counterpart funding of multilateral. And that's leaves us with a meager sum of 260 billion for all ongoing projects as inherited. Let me make a remark on page 6, where I say that note that without any presidential pronouncement, the following parastatals which have been under the Ministry of Works have been provided for in the budget proposal for the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development as follows: Office of the Surveyor General of the Federation, Federal School of Surveying, Council for Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, Surveyors Council of Nigeria. It will be good that these committees do get this parastatal back to the Federal Minister of Works, where they rightly belong. Page 7, clause 6, categorization of ongoing highway projects up to 2023. The ministry undertook a total of 2,097 ongoing projects to inherited projects at a total contract sum of 13.835 trillion. The total amount certified today stood at 4.77 trillion, while the total amount paid was 3.14 trillion, and that could be seen in Lecture 1. $6.10 Highway Project Finance with Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund, PIDF. A total of 4 selected critical projects are being funded under the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund, PIDF project, which is managed by the National Sovereign Investment Authority, NSIA. And the projects are expansion and upgrading of Lagos-Ibadan Express Highway Section 1, Lagos to Shagamu, expansion and upgrading of Lagos-Ibadan Express Section 2, Shagamu to Ibadan, reconstructions to rehabilitation of Abuja-Kaduna Road, reconstruction of Second Niger Bridge and 2 bypasses at Asaba and Onitsha. As at date, the total sum of 846 billion has been certified out of the initial project cost of 1.53 trillion, with a budget performance of 55.12. The Lagos-Ibadan has been substantially completed to about 90%, that's Section 1, but we still have funds to complete the entire project. The Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Road is 3 sections with about 127 uncompleted in Section 1, Abuja-Kaduna. Section 2, which is Kaduna-Zaria, is fully completed, and Section 3, which is Zaria-Kano, is ongoing with 20 kilometers left uncompleted. The total cost of 3 sections is about 655 billion. The contractor is seeking for a review of contracts to about 1.37 trillion to complete the entire project. We are reviewing the request. However, even though the project will not get up to 1 trillion when fairly reviewed, we believe that the unit rates ought to be reviewed. For example, the substituting unit rate of asphalt on the project for Julabeja is about 11,000 per square meter, whereas the real cost now is not less than 20,000 per square meter. We have requested the contractor to execute the first 40 kilometers of Section 1 on concrete. It is important to note that we do not have funds to continue the project by February 2024 if no funding is injected into the project. The Second Niger Bridge has been completed and was recently handed over to the ministry. Additionally, there remains the construction of the approaches roads 2A and 2B, which were awarded by FEC, but have funding challenges to take off. The remaining 2 passes in Asaba and Onitsha, awarded to Julabeja and the RCC respectively, during the last administration was initially expected about 200 billion. But now, inflation, the cost may be up to 260 billion. There is no funding for these projects and the projects have not taken off. Let me know that without these bypasses, the completed second Niger bridge will be almost inoperative. The details of these projects are shown in Annexure 2 of this big book. In page 9, 6.20, you will see projects funded with sovereign sukuk, that's special intervention. In page 10, you will see clause 6.4, you will see projects being funded by tax credit of an MPC phase 1, and then all in Annexure IV Part B. In clause 6.5, page 11, you will see project funded under road infrastructure development and refurbishment tax credit of an MPC. In page 10, that is, you will see in page 9, you will see phase 1 of an MPC intervention, and page 10, 6.4, that is an MPC intervention. And 6.50, page 11, you will see projects that are being funded under tax credit, like the LNG, the Dangote Industry, BUA, MTN, Mainstream Energy Limited, GZI Industries, are all there, and it's a total of 1.338 trillion, and that is aside that of an MPC. And then you see projects funded from multilateral loans. The details are in this book, IV section C. Projects funded from multilateral loans. There are 4 of them. Highway and bridges projects are being funded through the multilateral loans and grants from African Development Bank and the China Exim Bank. The details are in Lecture B, and that's what we have projected 8 billion and 94 billion. That is 102 billion as contained in the project details. And page 12, 7.0, you see 2023 appropriation of all ongoing emergency repairs. They are all there. And then intervention on the tertiary institutions are there. And then you go to page 13. Sorry, the beginning of that is these projects have been executed. That's repetition. Our apologies. But you see projects, for vegetation control as requested by you, prioritized for completion in 2024. It's about 489.97. You see Annex B. You see bridge construction, stroke rehabilitation projects in page 13 and 14. And in page 15, you see new projects and can be seen in Annex 13, newly submitted. And then we go to page 16, where we say prospects of the 2024 budget for highways. Let me start with second paragraph to say that the main challenge to highway development in the country remains inadequate funding. As of today, government is committed to highway contractors to the tune of 13.835, with a total of about 1.5 trillion on paid certificates for executed works. Secondly, the threat of younger engineers and technical officers in the ministry as a result of embargo on employment is affecting effective project supervision at the site. It is expected that more sources of funding of highway projects be explored, as well as lifting the embargo on employment of needed engineer and technical officers at middle level to enhance supervision of projects. However, we are reinvigorating this by the use of consultants to be provided by NSC and the Korean. Our ministry has set up 6 committees to review all debts, approve and unapprove variation of prices of basic rates and all augmentation that occur before May 29 and from May 30th going forward. Recommendation. That's page 17. From the foregoing, I would like to recommend as follows. The provision of an emergency fund of about 30% of the budget provision. Presently, what we have here is just about 15 billion in our budget proposal, which is very highly inadequate. And this is expected that this contingency fund is where we should meet up the motions of the National Assembly and their resolutions, like Senator Demoshimole, had reminded me. And so it's on this contingency fund because we can't go to any other fund that is not appropriated for. That is environment, and it's not allowed under the law you made. So provision to cater for unforeseen emergencies that regularly occur on the road network, especially during the rainy season. So we are requesting that 30% should be appropriate for contingency fund for the ministry. An increase of the ministry present budgetary allocation to about 1.5 trillion to complete at least 10 selected critical roads and bridges in each of the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. C, urgent review of all certified debts to contractors, and if possible, convert same to promissory notes to contractors so that we can properly get focus. Sorry for that spelling. Focus in using any fund appropriated to us to pursue the ministry's set objectives. D, inflection. Many contractors are presently out of sight because they have exhausted their contract VOPs and needed the project unit rates to be reviewed. It will be good that all VOPs and documentation of all the projects are reviewed and those that are owed to be converted to promissory notes, while unit rates regime will take effect on contractors in line with the current realities of the construction industry. Page 18. More eligible companies should be encouraged to key into the road tax credit scheme to increase the number of private sector intervention. This means front-loading their tax liability to solve our present challenges. There have been a lot of misunderstanding about tax credit. People thought that tax credit, that these taxes are ready, and instead of paying it into the federation account, it is paid, they use it, the contractors who are the owners of the jobs use it. No, these are, a system and very innovative by the past administration where tax are front-loaded, some up to 2027. So they are to bring the tax forward to do the projects that will enhance, the capacity of their businesses. And they are the ones choosing these routes by themselves. Like the NNPC choice of routes is based on the transportation of their petroleum products. And they had, a lot of says in the making of the choices of those routes. The raising of bonds from capital market to finance road development in the country, creation of an enabling environment by fixing the roads so that the deployment of the highway development and management initiative can be effective. We're talking about this private sector participation. Like somebody is asking about the interventions, that is FEMA that should do intervention. The truth is that our roads have not been properly done. Every road being done may just last about 5 years. And they grow into a very bad situation that FEMA's capacity, cannot meet it. And again, these are motions of the National Assembly. And National Assembly from time to time appropriate for these emergencies. And so we are bound by your laws to obey. And we suggest that appropriation for projects be such that no projects, when started, should last more than 4 years. And then issues of asphalt, versus concrete. Let me just explain that we have not asked any contractor not to use asphalt, or you are bound to use concrete. No, we've not said so. We are concerned about the poor quality of our roads. I was in China, I've said this severally, and I asked them, there is no evidence that any of your roads has been maintained for the past 20 years. They say yes. Even though they argue that the quality of our construction by reason of our appropriation, where roads are lasting 20 years, and by the reason of technical specification, which they claim we cannot pay, is such that if you build a road and in your lifetime the road fails, and you're culpable in any way, by reason of the quality of the roads, by reason of the thicknesses and so on and so forth, the person goes to jail for life. There is no option of fine. And so we now said, okay, in our case, if you say our appropriation cannot meet up the standard in China, can you at least, our design is for a shelf life of 20 years for asphalt and concrete for 50 years. Can you give us a bond? Can you give us insurance that you will be limited to 5% VOP while using asphalt as in the contract, and that your road will last for 15 years? And I intend to send a memo to Mr. President where I would suggest a bill to National Assembly that every contract that is beyond 5 billion, we should inject 2% of that contract into the contracts for maintenance by the contractors. Because no matter how badly a road is constructed, it can last 1 year, and that's the deferred liability period, and the contractor walks away. And then we start talking about overloading. We don't have overloading, on our roads. The truth is poor construction. And so when we have this 2%, the contractors will be bound to maintain the roads for 10 years. And they will do a drawdown on this 2%. And that's what we are proposing. So we say using asphalt is good, but you have to be bound by that 15 years, the road will not fail. And you will not come to ask us for more than 5% VOP. And using concrete is 50 years, and you are bound by the VOP. And that's the explanation. We have not banned the use of. And in your 2022 supplementary, we got all the contractors to give a written guarantee that they will abide by this. And I think it's something that all the stakeholders should encourage the ministry to do and to understand the real policy of the ministry. And again, and finally, we are talking about the pressure on the Naira. We have bitumen deposit in Ogun State, and so this bitumen deposit could be developed instead of the importation. From the research we made, we discovered that the importation in the country that represent about 30% on the importation of bitumen. And so if we use our local content of concrete, the concrete is all about the roads. We are talking with the Minister for Steel on how we can partner with him. Will we guarantee the road that is going to produce? And I'm very sure that before March, that section of Ajokuta Steel will start production. And we've gotten some people to finance it, and we guarantee it, and that is the reinforcement. But the cement is produced here, the chippings produced here, the sand produced here, the labor is here, and so the local content, as passed by the National Assembly, is brought to the front border. Let me finally thank Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency, Senator Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, for the intervention of his New Hope administration in the works subsector and approval of an enhanced budget envelope for the Federal Ministry of Works. We also thank the leadership of the National Assembly, the chairman and members of the works committees, and indeed members of National Assembly for their painstakingly in ensuring the speedy passage of 2024 appropriation bill. Mr. Chairman, I so submit, and thanks for...
Mr. Chairman and the co-chair, distinguished and honorable members of the National Assembly, Honorable Minister, I listened to you attentively when you talk about 100 billion naira on new projects. But you know very well that we have serious challenges on the completion of new roads. Sorry, on the completion of all roads we started. What is the essence of building new roads when there are old ones that have not been completed? You are also aware that we passed the supplementary budget of 2022, where 500 billion naira meant for road construction was taken for palliatives. And that amount was done with the understanding that all the roads that are supposed to be constructed or reconstructed will appear in 2024 budget. I look at your 2024 budget proposal. Those roads are not reflected. Our contractors have already moved to the site. Some of them have done considerable work and they are waiting for payment. What explanation can you give to the National Assembly? Because some of those roads were taken by Federal Ministry of Works with due consultation with the members of the National Assembly, and they cut across all the geopolitical zones. None of them appears to be here in the 2024 budget. On the issue of tax credit and scope, we will be interested to know what criteria you are going to use to distribute the money you raised for scope. Is it going to be on geopolitical zones, or is it going to be done on critical road infrastructure in the country? Your predecessor used to take 6 roads from each of the 6 geopolitical zones. We had flooding in 2022. The Federal Ministry of Works sent circulars to all the controllers of work at the state level, and they forwarded what is required to be done. A contract was awarded, and I look at what you have in the 2024 budget. There is no provision for payment of those contractors that have finished their work. And members of the National Assembly are the ones that complain bitterly to the Federal Ministry of Works. And the ministry was compelled to contact their controllers of state. So, what arrangement are you going to make to ensure that those contractors get paid? But it's not fair for a contractor to be asked to move to the site, and he moved to the site, he does the work, complete the work, and then payment becomes a problem because of budgetary constraints. So we need to know what funding arrangement you have for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What my very senior and in the Niger Delta that we represent, as was earlier agreed, that all the items that were not attended to in the supplementary budget of 2023 will be rolled over to the budget of 2024. But what I have come to see is a different ballgame. And the only prominent item I have seen here as it concerns the whole rundown of the east-west road is only 1,500,000,000 naira. And if you have gone round all of the roads in Nigeria, and you made so much remark also about the east-west road, and you know the importance of the east-west road. It's not just because of oil producing, but is the main movement center cutting across the west, the south, the east, even to the north. And that is how important that road is. And you have only put in 1.5 billion. I wonder how anybody would want to look at it. How dear this road is to you and the ministry. And we are thinking that you should do something very quickly over that, because if we go by this, which means even for 10 years, this road will still be under construction. And to cap it all, what I saw in the budget again, on Otoke, I saw only 10 million naira, either to rehabilitate or whatever. And you know that is the former president's place. 10 million. Is this a very serious budget that I should be sitting down here to even defend? Mr. Chairman, sir, taking a look also of the new project, I don't think that proper stakeholders were involved in the management and inclusion of this budget. Proper stakeholders. I mean proper stakeholders. And there could be no proper stakeholder to talk on my behalf in my constituency than myself and the members that are sitting down here. And we are both proper and critical stakeholders that were not contacted. I suggest that you do something also on that. I haven't said so, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman. I will pass the message to some other person. Thank you.
Horrified. No, it's not paginated. This is new project. Annex 6.
Is it on the book?
Annex 6. 6 from the booklet.
No.
Annex 6, new projects.
We have replaced that.
Okay, fine, regardless. I've also seen through that as well. There's a very important and strategic national project which was never captured in your budget. And I'm shocked because I believe that road is very critical to linkage between the southeast and Abuja, the Loko Iweto road. The bridge is already there. It is the connecting roads that have not been captured. And I was Loko Iweto. The bridge is there, one of the best bridges that the ministry has ever constructed over the years. But it is not captured, the roads are not there. That link will cut distance time from the southeast to Abuja by over 2 hours. From the southeast. That's one. Secondly, Honorable Minister, last week, 18 innocent lives were lost on Abuja-Kaduna Road because of the poor condition of that road. While the discussion about the review of rates and other technical issues are being done, I would have thought the ministry will continue to impress on the contractor to utilize provision for palliative works on that road so that innocent lives and properties will not be put at jeopardy. And I think it is very important for the ministry to look at that critically. That road is an embarrassment, is an eyesore, Kaduna-Abuja expressway. Even if the road cannot continue for the technical reasons you mentioned about the variations, about the technical issues and all of that, but at least that road should be fixed so that reasonably movement of goods and services should continue unhindered. It is unacceptable. Last week I said 18 lives were lost, and this is a daily occurrence, and I think the ministry should look into that. Finally, remember the budget when it is brought here. But from what I see here, you're also doing the same. You're also doing the same. The few palliative works that are in the budget should be the responsibility of FEMA. The ministry should be more focused on construction. Our rule book is very clear on that. Section 28 of our rule book, of the Senate rule book, reports the responsibility of maintenance of federal roads to the FEMA agency. And it's an agency under your ministry. If they are having some challenges or some capacity issues, it is your responsibility as a minister to develop their capacity, to empower them to do the job. It is unacceptable that their incapacity or their weaknesses should be used as an excuse not to give them a responsibility bestowed on them by the Senate of this this Nigeria Senate. And I think this should be looked into critically, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. And
I want to emphasize this principally because the Honourable Minister today is a member of the National Assembly and he was in the Senate by the time the issue of the first supplementary budget came up at the floor. Ibadan, Ife, Ilesha Road. The budget they are in before the supplementary budget was 17 billion. But when it became very necessary on the request of Mr. President that money be mopped up for palliative, the money, about 15 billion was taken out of that. Ibadan, Ife, Ilesha Road. There was uproar on the floor of the House that day, and the House resolved unanimously that those main projects whose money were taken to fund the necessary palliative would be the first priority in 2024 budget. In the whole of Southwest, Ibadan, Ife, Ilesha Road is the second PCS road, apart from Lagos Ibadan Express, we are the second PCS road in the Southwest. So we are all surprised now that we see 2 billion naira there, where you have taken about 15 billion. What are we going to do there? I want an urgent step taken, and I thank God the chairman of this committee and from the House of Representatives from Oyo State. You know what I'm talking about. Something has to be done on that one. You have to change, you have to improve the money so that the work there will go on. A court across your constituency. So I hand over that one to you. Thank you.
For coming up with this very comprehensive and equitable budget. Comprehensive in the sense that all the major roads that needed attention in this country has been captured. And equitable in the sense that it has taken care of the 6 geopolitical zones. And the one that impressed me much is the Benue-Ebonyi Link Road. This road, if constructed, will be the shortest connection between Southeast and South-South Nigeria to the northern Nigeria. I want to commend you, Honorable Minister, my distinguished colleagues, honorable members. This budget is real, and more so now that we have an expert as Minister of Works. He did the magic before now in Ebonyi State as the governor. I have no doubt in my mind that Senator Umahi will fix all our infrastructural problems in Nigeria. Thank you.
Senator Bayanga, the Vice Chairman of this committee, and Deputy Minority Whip. Honorable Minister, my question is on revenue. As I mentioned on 4.0 of the report, the 723 plus billion, I don't know what constitutes that. What are the components of that revenue? Please, it will be interesting to know. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Minister, if you have a cumulative unpaid certificates in the sum of cumulative unpaid certificate in the sum of 1.5 trillion, as stated in page 4 of your brief, at the end of November 2023, does the figure cover all the contracts under tax credit incentive sovereign wealth investment and super bond? If not, what is the gross total? If not, what is the gross total? That is one. Two, the Honourable Minister, let me also align with the distinguished senator, other senators that have spoken here, and even in your own submission, that why most of the roads are abandoned is because of poor funding. I was privileged to be in a team that went on oversight in some road in the north central state and northwest states, and so I agree with them. In your own submission, you also said that most of the road after 5 years, are no longer motorable. Now my question is, who is responsible in the design of road? Is it the contractor or the ministry? Who is responsible in the design of roads? Can you answer again, please? Sorry? Can you said I should refuse it. Okay. The Honourable Minister, the second question is, from your own submission, you said that some roads after 5 years are no longer motorable. My question is, who is responsible in the design of roads? Is it the ministry or the contractor? Who is responsible in the appointment of consultants on roads? Is it the ministry or the contractors? Who is responsible for the supervision of roads? Is it the ministry or the contractor? Who is responsible for the certification of roads before payment? Is it the ministry or the contractor? Now, if the ministry are responsible for all these questions, and if their supervisors don't cut corners with the contractors, these roads should not be blamed on the contractor. That is my own opinion. Now you have come on board with new innovation. In your own opinion, what new measures will you take to ensure quality delivery and quality assurance? Finally, please, the Honourable Minister, what is the ministry doing about Calabar-Itu road in Cross River, Akwa Ibom, as the only major road that is linking the two states? As we speak now, that road is impassable. Thank you.
Fresh our minds about some of the issues raised, which also affects road projects in my senatorial district. But before then, I associate fully with the issue raised about the East-West Road. Honourable Minister, you need to take a second look at that. Just even last week, there was a heated debate on the floor of the Senate, and specifically in the course of our debates on the budget. That was one key issue that was talked about. I know that you are working within an envelope. What I want to say is that maybe some of these matters you need to take back to the President and then let him know that the urgency of the infrastructural decay in some of these roads that are very important, the East-West Road being one of them, clearly deserves additional support. And I'm sure the chairman will support you to drive home that point. Having said that, again, I bring you back to the point that has been raised here severally, that you were one of us, and you are still one of us, by the way. You know the decisions that were taken concerning the road project that were captured in the supplementary appropriation that was stood down, as it were. And some of the projects in my senatorial district are affected. And as you know very well, last year the flood was terrible. We are used to flood, managing flood, living under flooded environments and so on because of the peculiar terrain where we find ourselves. But last year was something else. And it took down even the few road projects that were there, thereby making our state completely, the entire state, completely impassable, both from the river's end, along the East-West Road, and from the Delta end also. So all the roads there were swept off. And I had to personally write to your predecessor, and then also copy the Senate leadership. They were involved. And a decision was taken to support the rehabilitation of those roads, to support the reopening of the federal institutions that are closed down, specifically the Federal College of Technical, Tumbo, along the Sagbama-Tumbo Road, all washed off. And then the military facility, the Nigerian Army Engineering Corps, that my government supported the Nigerian security to construct, washed at the road in that area, all of them destroyed. So those roads were captured. And Honorable Minister, we are finish yes, because I need you to note this. So those roads were captured in the estimates, and the understanding was that the 2 others that could not be taken would be taken. Now, even those 2 that were captured, that were stepped down, are no longer here. I know that within your powers, you should be able to do something to support us. I know that you are also managing constraints. Identify with that. But my request is to join my colleagues to say you should do everything you can. And that includes working with the joint committee leadership and seeking audience with your boss, the president, to explain to him so that if possible, your budget can be expanded. Alternatively, some of the small allocations something can be done about it. I know that you will look at all of this. But finally, Mr. Chairman, that's for our minister. I want to suggest that in view of the concerns that have been severally raised so far, and the many more concerns and complaints that colleagues here from all senatorial districts, all federal constituencies who are here may raise, which may require the same sort of answer and probably the same approach. I want to suggest, Mr. Chairman, that if it is agreeable to you and your joint chairman and the colleagues here, that a technical committee be appointed by you, which you people will lead, and people can sit, so that the technical people sitting with the technical, with the minister and his technical aides, can go into this budget and rework it, possibly rework it. And also, secondly, explore the second option of making a strong case to the president as part of his renewed hope agenda that the budget for the Ministry of Works, because we are dealing with collapsing in a nation that has collapsing critical infrastructure across the country. And you can't have a country if you don't have infrastructure. And listening to his speeches so far, and listening to his policy thrusts, even this budget, the money appropriated is an improvement on the previous year's appropriations. So in that spirit, I think that the National Assembly should support the minister and make a strong case to the president for an upward review. Because these are the projects that are keeping this country going. They are not just roads. A number of these infrastructure projects are not just roads where you talk about asphalt or concrete. You are actually talking about the sustenance of local economies. You are talking about mobility of our people, doing their businesses, to carrying out their farms, carrying out their trading enterprises, and so on. These are the activities that sustain the national economy. So a case, in my view, should be made with the National Assembly supporting the minister to make an appropriate case for augmentation. I so move.
It's so disappointing and unpleasant, and I did not see any money allocated for the completion of Ile-Ife Road down to our Palace of Oni of Ife. And I don't know the reason for that, and I know my people will not be happy, because if nothing is being done, that means we have to wait for another whole years. And as you can see, the Palace of Oni, you pass through that place. I saw how bad both left and right is being looked. So I don't know the reason for that, and I still want to plead with the chairman if something can still be done. Thank you so much, sir.
Chairman, Honorable Minister, I'm Senator Natasha Kotu-Duaha, representing the good people of Kogi Central. First, I'd like to appreciate your efforts that you've put in Ebonyi State, and we hope that that will be replicated across Nigeria in due time, with our support, of course. I have a few questions here. The first is on the second Niger bridge. Pulling out of your statements, your brief, I read, let me note that without these bypasses, you had earlier on mentioned the critical bypasses 2A and 2B. You said without these bypasses, the completed second Niger bridge will be almost inoperative. And that actually got me worried because I know that about 336 billion naira has been spent on the second Niger bridge. And to be told now that that bridge will stay inoperative if we do not have 2 critical roads completed. And that, you stated here, will amount to 260 billion naira. And that has not been provided for. The funding has not been provided for. I would like you to please notify us on how we would, in the shortest time, have this second Niger bridge operating and with the completion of the 2 bridges. And also, it's important that you deploy a holistic approach in designing the road network in Nigeria, so that we don't have item A, item B completed, item C, and therefore item A and item C that are critical to the function of B will not be fixed. So a holistic approach in designing a road networks in Nigeria is important. The second is the Abuja-Lokoja-Okene-Auchi road. Now that road has been under construction for pretty much over 20 years. Year in, year out, we have observed budgetary provisions being made for that. But it's not been completed, and several lives have been lost almost on a daily basis. That road connects the north to south, the south to west, the north to west, the north to east. It connects approximately over 20 states. And looking at the budget, the only thing I had seen, the only project I saw here that connects Okene is the special repairs of Okene-Ajakuta-Itobe Road. 10,250,000 naira. 10 million. I don't know what that will cover. But again, I see here in your 2024 capital budget, you did mention from item 14 to 16, the rehabilitation of Lokoja Abuja section 1 and 2 for 2 billion. Rehabilitation of Lokoja Abuja section 1 and 2 again. So pretty much 14, 15 and 16 has 2 billion provided, 2 billion provided for it, as a total of 6 billion. But then how about the second part of it, Lokoja Okene Auchi, so that we don't have a half-baked solution whereby the Lokoja up north will be fixed, while then Lokoja Okene Auchi will be neglected. Please, if it's possible for us to have for the chairman to take this road, the Abuja Lokoja Okene Auchi road, as a priority, maybe we could have this review. And finally, please, I'm glad you spoke about local content development and seeing that as much as possible we'll have the larger part of raw materials sourced in Nigeria. I appreciate you for that, because in that we get to keep the jobs local and we get to stir up our industries. And the fact that you intend to start a collaboration with Ajakuta Steel, that's quite applaudable. But then, I would like to speak about how do you intend to curb vandalization of our highways. Over time, as much as we've spent money to build our roads, we've also found some private industries, for example, the telecommunication industries, whenever they want to connect their own infrastructure, they do cut our highways and then they don't fix them back. They don't reinstate them after they have laid down their cables. Do you have any measures in place to ensure that the private sectors and others actually fix the roads after being destroyed? And in curbing vandalization, I'd like to draw your attention to the 5 roads that were destroyed in Kogi State, Kogi Central in particular, shortly before the 2023 elections. You did mention here in your opening remarks that roads good roads actually form a part of the bridge insecurity. That means when you have good roads, commerce is grown and insecurity is curbed. But in Kogi State, we had a situation whereby the roads were being destroyed a day to election in order to curb security. And I'd like to ask, do you have any measures in place to ensure that people are being held responsible for this road? Because 2 out of the 5 roads that were destroyed are actually federal roads. So I'd like to know, what measures do you have in place to punish vandals and to curb vandalization of our highways? Thank you.
Take full responsibility of this budget that is before us. That question, you need to put that. Why I'm asking this question, if you look at your EROGP 12209385, I want you to quickly look at that. 12209385. Rehabilitation of 1.3 kilometer internal road at the Federal University of Technology, Port Harcourt. Honorable Minister, I don't know when the University Commission has gotten a Federal University of Technology in Port Harcourt. There is none. So take note of that. Rehabilitation of 1.3 kilometer internal road at the Federal University of Technology, Port Harcourt. I want to say there is no Federal University of Technology in Port Harcourt. So take note of that. EROGP 12209385. Take note of the code. No, with the code you will get it. Honorable Minister, let me quickly take you. If you have the book, I want you to look at all this code about the various bridges in Calabari. Talking about the Aleki Idu Bridge. You're talking about the Degema Buguma Bridge. You're talking about Alakri Bridge. I want to say EROGP 12209786 up to A3, they are one and the same bridge. EROGP 1220997777 with 122097775, they are the same bridge. Look at all those things. Because various sums of money have been allocated for these bridges. And I want to say these bridges, they are just one and the same bridge. Currently, the River State government has awarded a contract that is taking care of the Trans-Calabari Road. It's only one of the bridge there. As we speak, there is no one single contractor there on that bridge. The only part of the bridge that the present River State government under the commissioner was just did a repair is the Aleki Ido Bridge. There is not presence of the Federal Ministry of Works in that place, so all this ongoing that they are putting there is not something we need to talk about. We will have to look at this one because I'm a critical stakeholder here and also in River State, and I will tell you this bridge and most of these ongoing jobs are not in existence. Having said that, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Minister, let's quickly, my friend, if we continue like this, there's going to be a committee we want to set because we need to talk with the minister. We have other agencies that will be here. I want to plead with you because answering or not answering this question will not help us here. I want you to talk with the senators and the honorable members. I will want the camera to just leave us for 1 minute. We discuss with the honorable minister because road infrastructure concerns all elected representatives of Nigerians, and we will definitely come back to that. When we are at the section, it's not a matter of camera, we will discuss about all those things. So the camera, everybody leave us, we have executive session. Thank you. Camera, leave us first. Camera, should everybody leave. I want only the Honorable Minister of the Palm Stem to be here now. Don't worry. You will answer it. Don't worry.
I said there should be a technical committee. Yes. Have they said so?
Distinguished senators,